The year was 1978. In a small town tucked between fields of golden wheat and dusty country roads, lived Lena Morris, a woman of quiet grace and endless patience. She was 29, mother of two, 7-year-old Clara and Tommy, who was barely 4. Their little wooden house stood at the edge of town, where the wind hummed through the trees and the night smelled faintly of rain and earth. Life wasn't easy, but it was honest. Lena's husband, James, worked at the old steel factory by the railway tracks. His boots always came home heavy with dust, his shoulders tired but proud. At least, that's how it used to be. Lately, a chill had crept into their home. The warmth in his voice had turned to silence, his laughter replaced by the distant rumble of the truck engine driving off before sunrise. He was a ghost in his own home, present but not really there. The change was so gradual, Lena almost convinced herself it was just the stress of work, the weight of providing for a family. But a cold knot of dread had been tightening in her stomach for weeks. That morning, the sky was a pale, indecisive gray, and the smell of coffee filled the small kitchen. Lena stood by the stove, her hands moving with familiar grace as she stirred oatmeal for the children. James sat at the table, his gaze fixed on nothing, his untouched coffee growing cold. A worn leather suitcase stood by his feet. At first, she thought it was another business trip, a quick run to the city for parts. But when she finally looked into his eyes, tired, restless, lost, she knew. This was different. This was final. He couldn't even say it clearly, couldn't give her the dignity of a proper explanation. Just a few broken words, mumbled into the space between them. Lena, I can't do this anymore. I need to find my own life. Her hand froze on the wooden spoon, the oatmeal forgotten. The children were still sleeping, their gentle breaths a stark contrast to the storm brewing in the kitchen. A scream built in her throat. She wanted to demand answers, to ask why, to throw herself at the door and make him stay, but her voice, it wouldn't come. A profound, paralyzing silence filled her. He stood up, the scrape of the chair leg against the floorboards echoing like a gunshot in the quiet room. He placed his hat on his head, a simple, everyday gesture that now felt like a betrayal. He didn't look back. He just walked to the door and pulled it open, letting in a gust of cool morning air. And just like that, the sound of the old Chevy truck engine sputtered to life and faded down the road, leaving behind a silence so absolute it felt louder than any scream. Her world, once filled with the steady rhythm of family life, went quiet. That night, Lena sat alone on the porch swing, the wood creaking softly beneath her. The same wind that used to whisper promises now felt like a lonely sigh. Inside, her children slept peacefully, blissfully unaware that their father wasn't coming home tonight, or any night after. She watched the stars blur through a film of unshed tears and whispered to the darkness, "It's just another storm, Lena. You'll find a way through it." It was a promise to herself, a fragile anchor in a sea of uncertainty. The next morning, she rose before the sun painted the horizon. The routine was her shield. She made breakfast, the smell of toast and eggs a defiant act of normalcy. She brushed Clara's long, tangled hair, her fingers steady as she wove it into a neat braid. She knelt to tie Tommy's small shoes, her voice calm and gentle as she asked him about his dreams. To the outside world, to her children, nothing had changed. But every movement, every word, every forced smile carried a silent, fierce promise. I will not let them feel the weight of my pain. I will be their rock, even if I feel like I'm crumbling inside. As days bled into weeks, the harsh reality began to set in. Bills stark white and demanding, piled up on the kitchen counter. She went to the factory, hoping to collect the final paycheck James was owed, but the manager just shrugged, his eyes avoiding hers. He left. "Ma'am, that's between you and him." The whisper started soon after. Neighbors who once waved hello now looked away, their conversations dropping to a hush as she passed. Some offered pity, their words dripping with a condescension that felt worse than silence. Others offered judgment, their sharp glances questioning her ability, her worth, her role in his leaving. Yet Lena never asked for help. Pride, or perhaps a deep-seated fear of being a burden, kept her from reaching out. Instead, she took her quiet strength and turned it into action. She started taking on sewing work for the local tailor, her fingers flying over fabric late into the night. She baked bread, the warm, comforting smell filling her home and the homes of her neighbors who paid her a few precious dollars. She started cleaning houses, scrubbing floors on her hands and knees, doing anything and everything that could keep her children fed and her dignity intact. In her heart, she clung to one single, unwavering truth: if I can just keep them smiling, if I can protect their innocence, I will survive this. As the sun cast long, golden shadows one evening, Clara looked up from her drawing, her eyes wide and questioning. "Mama, when will Daddy come home?" The question hung in the air, a fragile, painful thing. Lena paused, her heart clenching. The words trembled inside her chest, threatening to break free in a sob. But she swallowed the pain, summoned a faint smile, and smoothed Clara's hair. "Someday, sweetheart. But until then, I'm here. I'm always here." That night, long after the house had fallen quiet and both children were lost in their dreams, she sat by the window. Moonlight spilled across her face, illuminating the exhaustion etched into her features. The weight of loneliness, of being the sole provider, the only comfort, pressed down on her heart until it felt hard to breathe. But looking at her sleeping children, she whispered into the stillness of the room, "For them, I will not break." And that is how Lena's journey began, not with a roar of anger or a cry for help, but with the quiet, unyielding strength of a mother's love. In a world that had tried to take everything from her, she would find her power not in shouting against the storm, but in surviving it. Thank you for watching. If Lena's story touched your heart, please like this video and subscribe to our channel to follow her journey. Your support means the world to us.